Hi, this is Chatterboxing. I'm Sean. This video I'm going to talk about the fight, Daniel Dubois' fight last night against Richard Lartey. Very entertaining fight. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you watch it. It's on BT Sports YouTube channel. A very good performance from Daniel Dubois, in my opinion. Now, there were times when he was like a little bit reckless and put himself in, a couple of perilous positions that he didn't necessarily need to do. But generally speaking, I was quite happy with the performance and how he looked. Now, he came out in the first round, luckily he was basically trying to knock the guy out. First round, I mean, the bloke, Lartey, was, I think he's about sort of 17-1 or something like that, or 14, I can't remember. Had a decent record. I think he'd fought most of his fights in Ghana. I didn't recognise any of the names, so it's not like he's been in there with some real top level opponents. But still, Daniel Dubois only had 9 fights, so it was a pretty solid opponent for this stage. And generally, like the Africans, they're quite game, pretty physically, quite tough and strong. So you don't normally get an easy night's work with them in general. So Daniel Dubois, obviously being 21 years old, I think this guy's about 30 or something. He was quite big, strong. As I say, he's quite game, and he was up for it. He was quite aggressive the way he was talking. So Daniel Dubois came out in the first round and really tried to assert himself, pushed him back a little bit, and then he got him on the ropes. And then they started just trading in the first round, which was a little bit reckless. As I say, like Daniel Dubois could have been taken out, really. I mean, the bloke was swinging some big punches. Dubois was as well. Both of them showed to have a good chin. After that, he sort of settled down a little bit when he realised that he wasn't just going to blast him out of there and the other guy was swinging back with some big heavy punches. He kind of was a bit more measured. And what I did like about Dubois in his performance, his distance control, for me, is quite impressive at this stage of his career. Because he's only had 9 fights, but he was generally beating the other bloke to the punch. He was massively outlanding him, get him onto the right, hit him a few times and then step back, not just, stay there and get caught with stuff he didn't need to. So generally he was hitting and not getting hit, apart from the times when he just kind of went balls to the wall and just had a tear up with him, which he did a couple of times, which was very entertaining, a bit dangerous, but it also showed a good spirit, in my opinion. Like the way when he did get hit, he was just like, come on, let's have it, and he'd go for it. Now there was one time when he got hit quite hard over the top. I think he got with a right hand, looked like he got on a temple or something, and you can tell it kind of buzzed him a little bit. He handled that quite well, in my opinion. He stayed composed. He knew, as I say, there were times where you just get stuck in and just have a toe-to-toe with him. But on this occasion, he just took a bit of a step back, another step back, composed himself, not like just retreating and just inviting on a load of trouble, but he just did enough, just give himself a little step back, repositioned himself, and then kind of established the jab again and managed to kind of beat him to the punch. So he handled that quite well. He took it quite well as well. I mean, it might have stunned him for a little bit, but Lartey's a big, strong lump, heavyweight, got him with a big right hand over the top. So that was good. He showed that he was quite tough. He showed that he was game, and he's just very. I like the aggression of Dubois. Now, it's kind of, for the most part, controlled aggression. Like everything he does, comes behind a jab. He's got quite quick feet. He does look a little bit textbook. He doesn't have great head movement. He doesn't have particularly great upper body movement. Hopefully that will start to, develop a little bit as he goes forward. But he does have. People say that he doesn't have a very good defense. He doesn't have a bad defense. I mean, he blocks quite a lot of punches. He does a good little step back, like he'll land his and then he'll move out the way at the right time. So his feet, he positions himself quite well. He doesn't really get hit with that many. Now, the only punches that really he took in this fight were when he was just going toe-to-toe trading. So I don't think he does have a bad defence, like people say. He's not perfect, and there's definitely things he can improve on. Like I say, the head movement, but he's got good defence with his feet and his positioning, and his control of distance. He's good, and I like that. Now, once you really start, all the people really that I rate in boxing, they all control the distance. It's very, very important. The people who do these, people like Klitschko, Mayweather, like the people it's almost like impossible to beat them. and they just have that distance really measured perfectly, and they position themselves, they punch you at the right time, they're never quite there when you think you're going to hit them. So that's what I see Dubois developing very well, and at this stage in his career he's not really taken that much from what I've seen. So that was a very solid performance. It was a crowd pleasing performance as well. That's what people want to see with heavyweights. Now I wouldn't really want to see him do that too often, like just having it makes for good entertainment, but from the perspective of him going forward, if he's literally just going to stand there and just slug it out with people like that, with his his chin in the air, but he wasn't really that concerned about what was coming back at him. And this bloke seemed like quite a reasonable puncher. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't like massive puncher, but he was hitting hard enough to do him damage. And there were definitely, I mean, there was one I think when they were having the exchange. Because this guy had obviously had a good chin as well. Dubois got him with some big punches. Obviously, he stopped him in the end, but he was hitting him with some good, solid ones and didn't manage to knock him over. Although he did manage to hit him enough to the other bloke just basically wanted to grab hold of him, and you could tell he was obviously. But still, this was a solid punching, tough opponent who. It's not a great idea to just slug it out with them when you've got superior boxing skills like that. But there was one time when the Lartey swung like a big left hook, and it just got him, I think, on the chest here, or just below it could have got him right on the chin, and who knows, because that was a really solid. And Dubois was in the middle of punching himself. So yeah, that is something that obviously he will need to be a bit wary of as he goes up the level in competition. But overall, I'm very impressed with Dubois. Talking about him fighting the two of them like Gorman and Joe Joyce, I would definitely pick him to beat Gorman based on what I've seen. I do like Gorman. Gorman he's a skillful fighter. He's quite a good all-rounder. But for me, Dubois just looks physically a lot more imposing. And I just see because he throws good combinations as well. He's like working the body as well. He's quite far advanced, I believe, for someone who's 21 years old. So I'd definitely pick him to pick Gorman. Although I think that would be a good fight and a very good test for him. Definitely wouldn't write Gorman off. Joe Joyce. I mean, Joe that's a weird one really, because they've mandated it for the British title, and for the British boxing fans, that's a great fight, and that's definitely one we'd like to see, especially as you've got Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury both gone over to America, at least for now. In this, well, with Tyson Fury, it looks like he's going to be there long term, really. So a big British level domestic heavyweight fight would be great for us. From their perspective, from the perspective of Dubois, he's 21 years old. He's only had 10 fights, and he's got a lot of potential. So Joyce I think he's like 30, is he, or 33 maybe? He's been around a lot longer. I know he's only been a professional for a couple of years maybe, but he was in that. The thing with Usyk, I can't. You know what I'm talking about, the kind of semi-professional boxing league thing, whatever it was. He's obviously been in the Olympics. He's been around a long time, and he's a lot more developed. He's out there. He's been in training in America. He's obviously done the sort of Team GB as well. So he's picked up quite a lot of stuff. That is quite a big step up for Dubois, and not necessarily one that he needs at this stage, like from the perspective of his team. Because I think if you give him a couple more fights, and he really is going to become like a fighter. I definitely think his potential is better than Joe Joyce's. From Joe Joyce's perspective, I mean, I think he's like, what do you say? He's like manager to the European title, which obviously will bring his rankings up around the world quite high. He possibly could fight Manuel Char for the WBA regular title. So that would be a step down for him in terms of rankings. It's a very risky fight for him to take. And there's not really that much in it. I mean, you say like winning the British title, which is true, but he's 33 years old. And if he wants to fight for world titles at that kind of level, and at that kind of stage, money, etc., it's a risky one for his team as well. I can't imagine that Dubois would be the first choice of his management, because he's got a lot more to lose than Dubois has. But as I say, from the perspective of Dubois, it's a big step up as well. When you think they'd like to see him a bit more polished before going in with someone like that. Now, if that fight did get made, that would be I could see that being a real war. Now, Dubois likes to trade. He's a combination puncher. Joyce is the main weakness that Joyce has is he's very slow, like seriously slow. But at the same time, he's very, very heavy-handed. He does seem very, very tough, and he's got better boxing skills than it looks like from the outside. That's the impression I get. He seems to be a lot more effective. If you look at him, he looks like a I don't know. I mean, people use the word robot like quite a bit. He does genuinely seem like a bit of a robot, one that like needs a bit more WD-40 in the joints. So, I mean, he seems like his movement and all that. Well, saying that, then he'll do like a backflip in the ring after. So he's very deceptive. Like, he looks terrible in a way, but then he'll do stuff that you think, well, you have to be very athletic and very flexible to do. So it's a weird one, Joyce. But that fight, I'd say, being an absolute war. Both of them hard punches. Both of them very tough. I'd like to see it, but I would be surprised if that was the fight that got made next, to be honest with you. Dubois, he's potentially in a bit of a... I don't know. I mean, where does he really go from here? Because he's 21 years old. He's got quite a bit of time to develop and obviously get to the top level. But what kind of opponents is he going to be able to get that can really like push him on? I just see it as being a bit of a jump from where he's just dominating and not really learning too much, or suddenly he goes to a level where, like, you know, I'm not really ready for this, because it's going to be difficult to get opponents for him. I mean, Frank Warren's going to have to pay quite a lot of money. But having said that, I mean, he's now headlined another event. Obviously, he's got a fan friendly style. BT really want to invest in him, then I think they could bring in some decent opponents. But it's going to be tough, really, I think, finding suitable opponents for him. Let me know in the comment section any ideas that you'd like to see him fight next. If it's not Gorman or Dubois. Oh, sorry, Dubois fights, or Joyce. So yeah, overall, very good performance. Shout out to Lartey as well. Like a really good performance from him. He definitely came to fight, came to win. Showed, which is good. At this stage, when you're like 9 fights in, you want to fight people who've got ambition, and that's what you're going to learn. You don't want someone who's just there for a payday. He was clearly there trying to win the fight. Which, you know, Dubois would have learned a lot in that. A lot more than most of his fights. And just some of those sort of veteran tactics as well, where he just grab hold of him and just pin him on the ropes. He was obviously physically very strong, and Dubois had to kind of fight his way out of that, because the referee, even though the referee was trying to get him to break it, he just wasn't doing it for a while. So yeah, so fair play to him. And yeah, that's let me know who you think that Dubois can fight at this stage. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching.